Hello there. If you like truth, you'll like it here. Welcome. Dear content creators, part 3. Here is what you need to do about the Love and Marriage Huntsville strikes and lawsuits. Full disclosure, I have already, long ago, recorded, though not yet uploaded, 2 videos addressed to content creators, advising them not to give attention to Martell Holt's mistress and baby mama, to starve her of the attention she craves and so desperately desires. The videos are entitled Dear Content Creators Part 1, Don't Say Her Name, and Dear Content Creators Part 2, Don't Show Her Face. I urge you to check them out. If I'm being honest, I think you guys shouldn't give any of the cast members any attention, with the exception of Melody Cherie, though not on the Love and Marriage Huntsville platform. But I'll save the why for another video for another day. Back to the previous videos. For the sake of continuity, I will likely upload them at the same time as I upload this one, just to keep things in order. But this message seems much more necessary and timely, particularly given the heightened gravity of the situation. By that I mean, given the bullying and intimidation tactics employed by the cast member in question and the underhandedness of the show's producer. If anyone knows me, they know I hate a bully, and am usually the person to step to a bully on behalf of the person being bullied, or take a bully down. As an adult, I am fortunate that I don't encounter many bullies today, though if I did, I am someone who would speak up and do something about it. And this is also certainly who I was in school. It is a fixed part of my personality. I am a rooter of and fighter for the underdog, or the person or people considered the least of us. That is why I am so pro-us, or any group of people unfairly and chronically mistreated as a result of a power differential between those in charge versus those who are not. So, needless to say, I stand with all those creators who are being threatened, bullied, and intimidated into forced compliance, especially if they depend on content creation for their livelihoods. These threats of lawsuits and actual lawsuits, as well as strikes, are nothing but control tactics. They're meant not so much to silence your voice as it is to direct it to the topics the aggressors deem safe, because they know that ultimately they benefit from your voice, so they don't ultimately want it silenced, just controlled. You will notice that a while ago, Maurice tried to exert control by making his little manipulative list of content creators he deemed worthy versus those he had advice for, versus those he didn't list. Y'all saw through that, right? That was laughable. I saw that some saw it for what it was, and others did a little glory lap around their imaginary pools. That was meant to control, guys. No more, no less. He tried to direct people's voices away from their own thoughts and perceptions and guide them towards thoughts and perceptions that would be kinder and more forgiving toward him. And when that failed and the people kept peopling, he remembered he had a law degree stuffed in his bedroom closet, right past his high school photo albums, and he dusted it off and pulled it out. He figured now was a good time to learn how to do some actual lawyering, and he chose a few people who he thought would have limited resources to practice on. Between his seemingly frivolous lawsuits and the show producer's ridiculous strikes, these seem like such little man moves to make. Could you imagine a person with actual power, importance, or significance going after regular folks who sit in their living rooms commenting on shows they watch? Could you imagine Andy Cohen striking channels of people who disagree with or talk about him? Could you imagine Tyler Perry trying to get people's websites or YouTube channels taken down when they talk about his bad wigs, bad script, and bad acting? No, of course not. These men are too busy doing busy, successful man stuff. They don't have the time. Plus, they recognize that dissension is a part of the process. They understand that not everyone is going to like or agree with you, and that if you slap your face across a public TV show, that you're probably going to get a public response. And that response, for some, won't be favorable. But that cast member has the time. And so does the show producer. I'm not surprised. The cast member in question seems pretty generally useless and unremarkable, but the show producer seems small and petty. Yet I hear the show producer is always in his closet talking about the Lord. Talking it, but clearly not living it. Those be the ones. As you can see, I clearly don't like this. I hate it, in fact. And what I hate about it is that I believe it is only being used against people who the aggressors think are easy targets or easy prey, for socially conditioned reasons. I will get into that in a moment, as soon as I first tell you how to fight back. The way that you make an ungrateful person grateful is by removing the thing they're taking for granted. If a person is taking you for granted, remove yourself from their presence. If a person is taking your kindness for granted, remove your kindness from their presence. And I will follow up with that by saying, I would still remove myself because I would not want to be around someone who consistently takes me out of character. Similarly, in the case of the LAMH show, if the show producer, whose little YouTube show I can't watch because his chipmunk voice is weird, contrived, and irritating, is not being appreciative of the content creator's role in increasing his show's viewership, then I would take it away. I would no longer watch. I would no longer report or comment on it. As a matter of fact, I would go a step further by finding another show to devote my time and energy to, so that it then becomes his show's competition and hopefully overtakes it, as his show already appears to be on its last leg. Two things are apparent here. One, it's apparent that you guys' words and thoughts are powerful, because look how your words are making these people act out. These are people who either produce or star in a nationally televised show on a black billionaire's network, and you guys have them cowering and shaking in their boots. From what I have heard, they have resorted to lawsuits and channel strikes. I don't know the details, but I believe the one who appears to be lawsuit happy is suing because he is not pleased about his portrayal as a self and sex-centered, lousy husband and uninvolved father. And that's when he's getting a portrayal at all. Due to him being fairly inconsequential, most people forget he exists. Which is probably why, allegedly, and in my opinion, his wife just rolls over and takes it, or suffers through it, or whichever he said she does. This is probably done so she can quickly be done with him and get on with the rest of her evening. It seems no one really has time for or attention to give to this cast member. So suing you guys not only gives him practice, so he can eventually become something more than a piece of paper lawyer, it also gives him something to do. This is probably the most excitement he's had in a very long time. Side note, I think he wants people to think he is some sort of high-energy sex addict, when he just appears to be someone who is bad at it. You know how you eat something that isn't very fulfilling, so you'll be hungry again in a couple of hours? That's the vibe I get from his constant need for more sex. It just appears that he's trash at it and isn't adequately satisfying himself nor his wife. After all, if he was doing something worth something in the bedroom, his wife would be all love-happy and giggly, instead of sitting on the sofa with a comfort dog. Plus, what man with a job has time to do it 3 times a day? I told y'all are finally giving this man purpose and something to do, and his wife probably thanks y'all for it. Extra side note, that is super important. The lawsuit happy one does allow me to raise a great point, which is what I like to use this and other shows, as well as people, places, and things for, and that's to discuss and illustrate life lessons that help us improve our lives and our well-being for generations to come. But the point he does allow me to make is this. Every black person everywhere should have a lawyer on retainer. I, for one, prefer a firm. That way all purposes, business and personal if needed, are covered. Just by the nature of being black in America, we should all have already established legal representation on deck, whether or not we think we'll ever need it, and whether or not we ever actually do. This is an age-old tactic, and the lawsuit-happy one would not be the first person to try to use the legal system to suppress and oppress black people, especially if he feels they are of low economic standing. In other words, if he feels they're black and broke, and thus easily intimidated. This is a popular ploy. Many use it as a scare tactic to keep us in check or to intimidate us. They assume that we will be ignorant of our rights, unknowledgeable about the judicial system, and incapable of producing the funds necessary to protect and represent ourselves, if it comes to that. Prove them wrong, and always be ready for whatever you need to be ready for by having legal representation at your beck and call. Case in point, do you know how many young Black men and women, as well as not so young Black men and women, are currently serving time because they had no or inadequate legal representation? Whether you need to be ready if you get falsely accused, hemmed up, or even just harassed by a racially biased and hate-filled police officer looking to fill his time, make a name for himself, or simply harass an individual he thinks he'd be able to get away with harassing, make sure to have a lawyer on standby so you can know what your rights are and exercise them accordingly if you ever feel either you or your rights are being violated. Again, I will repeat, the lawsuit happy one seems to be following that old white textbook that many use against who they consider to be poor Black folks to keep them in line, in check, and under their thumb. And that old white textbook, which is unfortunately sometimes also used by middle-class Black folks once they finally escape their own low-income backgrounds, teaches them how to unleash the legal system, which is supposed to defend and protect all citizens against the most underrepresented and economically disempowered citizens. And that's usually us, when that legal system is supposed to defend and protect all citizens. So play their game the right way. Keep a lawyer on standby. And in addition to that, in any free time you have, make sure to make yourself knowledgeable about the law and your rights. To recap, every person that is Black, brown, or otherwise considered a vulnerable member of society needs to go out today and make the acquaintance of a practicing attorney and not a piece of paper one. Because even with the number declining in recent years, there are still over 35,000 students graduating from law school every year, but not all go on to actually practice law. And of the ones that do go on to practice law, even fewer do so successfully. Be discerning and always be prepared. Okay, TED Talk over. Now, back to the video. Earlier, I said that two things were apparent, with one being that you content creators' words are powerful. The other is that you all are effective. Didn't you guys stage a blackout once before? Didn't it affect their viewership? And had the cast members darn near begging for you guys to begin watching again? Well, if you did it once, you can do it again. And if you did it to defend Melody from the way she was being treated, then you can stage one to defend yourselves from the way you're being treated. Now, as I've said, I don't watch the show. It lost any redeemable value years ago and is just sadness and nonsense now, in my opinion. So I stay clear. Any of what I do hear about is because it breezes across my desk, and if there is a lesson in it, I will talk about it. But my advice would be for you guys to abandon the show altogether. I know y'all are making a few dollars from it, and I'd hate for that to stop. So simply do what y'all did before. Just a handful of y'all watch and disseminate the info to your listeners. And I mean painstakingly disseminate it, so that people feel there is literally no need to watch. Give every detail. Tell what color shirt the particular cast member had on, what they said, and where they were standing when they said it. You know how there are those trailers that show you so much of the movie that you no longer want to see the actual movie? Be like those trailers. You guys are what keep that show alive. They know that. They don't want y'all to go away. What they want is to control you guys. So remind them of your impact and power by taking it away. And so that you guys still make your money, y'all work together to designate who will cover what so that every person has a lane. Y'all can still give your total thoughts, but maybe have one of y'all also cover their clothing, and someone cover their whereabouts, and someone else cover their heck whatever. I don't know what else to include because they seem like such empty and one-dimensional people. But whatever y'all find in there to cover, then cover it. And do all that while still slowly branching away. Many of you gain the following you did from the show, but it's what you offer and present that keeps your followers or subscribers or whatever they're called loyal. I hate calling anyone a follower, by the way. The only person we should be following, in my opinion, is Jesus. So, In any case, what you say and how you say it is what keeps your folks coming back. So branch away and expose them to more shows and other things. You guys have gained the loyalty and trust of thousands of people. So introduce those people to new and unique finds and entertainment choices. Let that show's producer know that he needs y'all more than y'all need him. I assure you, whatever show y'all go over to and introduce fans to will be grateful. So for the ones who aren't grateful, y'all know what to do. Like I told you guys before, the way that you make an ungrateful person grateful is by removing the thing they're taking for granted. Back to the lawyer. He really should be better than this and use his degree for good. There are so many of us needing good legal representation from people that look like us and/or who understand our historical plight. He could be using his law degree for that. Or he could be using it to fight for our rights, as we're in dire need of that service too. But no, he won't use it to represent us or our interests. He's using it instead to fight grandmas and content creators who hurt his little feelings about a show we barely even see him in. Dude, be better. If you want us to see you as something other than useless, be something other than useless. Don't resort to bullying and intimidation. Do some good. Our community can use it. All right, y'all. That's it, and that's all. Hello there. If you like truth, you'll like it here. Welcome. If you don't, or if you believe in groupthink, or bullying others into believing the popular opinion, then this isn't the place for you. So go ahead and just cancel me now. On this channel, we don't discuss my truth or your truth. We discuss the truth, and no topic is off limits. So, log in, like, subscribe, get comfy, and comment. It's nice to have you here. So let's talk.